and welcome to another episode of the Sharper Edge podcast. We're on episode number 37. I can't believe we've been rolling along here. And today is really it's a full circle moment, I guess, because when I first did this podcast, my very first episode, I invited some friends on who are my Sunday school teachers, and it was three of them and me. So it's four of us on there, and we were talking about our styles and the way we like to interact with people. And we're very outgoing, very kind of warm and friendly kind of folks. We love, just talking and chatting and socializing and all that kind of thing. So it was a fun group. It is a fun group of people to hang out with. And I'm bringing one of them back today because we're still talking about resilience. Last episode, you had the opportunity to hear from Persephone's Canty. We lovingly call her Sept. She is talking or was talking about resilience. She had just done a women's conference and she was talking about overcoming and getting through cancer. So she's 10 years hence that diagnosis and all of the work she had to do to go through it. And you heard her, if you had the opportunity to listen, you likely heard her say how there are some residual effects too, and just basically how she has overcome. But still, life is all different. Well, she had the opportunity for hindsight since it's been about 10 years since her diagnosis. But now I'm bringing back Celicia Moses, who was with us in the very first episode, talking about something totally different. Little did we know that sometime down the road a piece, few months down the road a piece, she would be coming back to join us for a totally separate and different kind of conversation. And she's going to talk about resilience today as well, but not because she has hindsight, but because she's currently in her fight and her struggle, which she's going to tell us about in a minute. So she'll tell us about being resilient and getting through in the moment while you're going through a certain situation. All right. So I want to welcome Celicia Moses to today's episode of the Sharper Edge podcast. Hey, Celicia.
Hello, hello, hello.
Good to have you on here. Looking great.
You know, I do my best.
But how are you feeling?
Oh, well, today is one of those challenging days, but praise the Lord, I am up. I woke up this morning.
Amen.
So that's always a blessing, in spite of. And I try not to look like what I'm going through. That's one of my little mantras.
Absolutely. So that's all good. And that's one of the things I'm sure that people who are going through certain situations have to keep in mind too. It's just the whole, just making up your mind to barrel through. So I want you to kind of back up a little bit and tell us about what's going on, because I haven't really said to anybody on here yet what the situation is, but tell us a little bit about what you are going through right now.
Okay. Well, I have what they call triple negative breast cancer. There are different kinds of breast cancer. I'm not going to even attempt to even share what all of those are, but I have triple negative. And basically, even other individuals that may have triple negative, it just depends on the size of the tumor. And the size of my tumor is like 1.7 centimeters. So I was still stage 1, which was a blessing. I found it myself. So one thing I can say, I did have my mammogram back in June. However, I discovered a lump myself in November of 2025. So again, even though you may be getting your mammograms like you're supposed to annually, still do a self-check. In my case, I found it myself. Fast forward, the doctors did a biopsy, determined that I had stage 1, and again, what we call triple negative. I've already gone through chemo. Just rung the bell a week ago this coming Monday.
How many rounds of chemo did you do?
I did 16 total rounds of chemo. And then looking forward to still, I have my surgery, which will be July 1st, and then I'll have radiation to follow. And once again, everybody with triple negative, they do not always have to do chemo, surgery, and radiation. It just depends on your prognosis.
Yeah, it's a very individualized treatment that they have for everybody, right? But
That's
cancer
correct.
is, in some ways, cancer is cancer in this way. And I just want to say in this way, because I know it's all different. There's a million different cancers. Everybody, even if you might be diagnosed with the same cancer, you're going to face it differently. Your health prior to the diagnosis matters as well, all those things, right? But what I'm meaning in generalizing cancer, there is, the minute somebody hears the word, it's like, oh, It's like, oh, my entire world has just been turned upside down. So
That's
tell
true.
tell us about what that moment was like for you when you received the diagnosis. How did it impact you mentally and emotionally?
Well, at first, I kept telling myself, I have cancer. I actually have cancer.
Mhm.
Me? But blessingly, with my spiritual development, I guess for lack of better words, and my professional development too. It's not all spiritual development, but my professional development. I just quickly told myself, it is what it is. I need to jump on it. I need to contact who I need to contact, learn, what I need to learn in order to press through. Having two kids, a husband, a grandson, a son-in-law, a mother, sister, nieces, and nephews, of which I'm the oldest daughter, oldest child. Long story short, yes, it hit me like it would normally hit somebody. I'm not going to sit and play like I didn't have my moment, because I did. Because cancer, it's a hard word.
Yeah.
So my first 1 or 2 days, I just caught grip and just came to realize, okay, Lord, show me, help me, teach me, strengthen my faith. Speaking to Betty, I think you were one of the first people I might have reached out to. Again, we are Sunday school teachers together, but we are also each other's prayer confidants.
Mhm.
And so with Betty and maybe a few others, of course, everybody wanted to pray for you. But to answer Betty's question, it hurt. And just speaking about it now, I could feel a little something that I got cancer, you
Mhm.
know, but I had to get a grip on life. And it was either I was going to cry my way through it, went my way through it,
Mhm.
or for those of you that may watch this, I call myself Celicia Superstar, or am I going to superstar my way through it with
Mhm.
the God that I have and the support village that I have? And so after a few days, and after I had spoken with my oncologist and my surgeon, maybe a couple of weeks, maybe not a few days, I became better with acceptance of it, but it wasn't right away.
Mhm. And yeah, I would imagine when you hear something like that, because you're just kinda going through your life, right? And this thing kinda it's a sucker punch. Like you
Mhm,
said, you didn't realize you had a tumor growing, you had already had a mammogram, you were cleared, and
mhm,
had you not been paying close enough attention to your own body,
mhm,
who knows until the next
mhm,
mammogram, that tumor could have been, growing, and it could have been a lot worse than what it was. So you're just going through life, and then all of a sudden, out of the blue, boom, you get this really harsh diagnosis.
mhm,
So I can imagine it would be difficult to accept it at first. It sounds like
mhm.
you just didn't want to really accept it. Like, is this really happening to me? That kind of this unbelievable in the moment. So, but then you also sound like a fixer, Celicia. So, because you
Mhm.
sound like, okay, how do I do this? What do I need to do? Who do I need to call? How do I get started? Do you feel like that's much of your approach through this? Just trying to figure out how to navigate through all of the necessities, because now your life is a lot of doctor's appointments and blood work and scans and medicines. And I mean, tell us about it.
Well, still wanting and needing to press through life, being self-employed, as you know, as well, that played a part. And having had a sibling to pass away from cancer as well, that played a
Mhm.
part. So I had to find some, um, how do I want to put this? I had other people, I guess, that kind of want to fix it too,
Mhm.
and me being self motivating. I'm a self motivator.
Mhm.
Um, or some were a little overbearing, would call me too much or want to be too much.
Yeah.
And I had to realize that I'm not in this by myself. I have family members and associates and friends that they too are feeling it. They're not feeling it as if they have cancer, but they're feeling it as if someone they love have cancer.
Mhm.
And they might have also lost other loved ones from cancer. So it was yet a sucker punch to those that I love.
Right.
So I had to get a grip that I had to allow other people to love me or support me, and I not be the dominant person that I could sometimes
Mm.
be.
Mhm.
So I had to become compassionate and realize that even though I'm the one with cancer, because at first I would say things like, wait, I'm the one with cancer. Wait,
Mhm.
I'm the one with cancer. But I had to realize that, even though I had it, there were people that loved me enough. And I would say my husband and maybe my mother, that if they could take it from me, they
Right.
themselves would wear
Mhm.
that wound.
Mhm. Yeah.
I had to realize that. And maybe even my oldest child. But with that being said, I had to realize that I wasn't in this fight by myself. And that's hard to realize when you're the one with the actual tumor. You're the one with the
Mhm.
actual cancer. I don't know if I'm answering your question because
Yeah, no, it's good because you're bringing up caregivers, which,
yeah, yeah.
even though you're the one that's actually going through the process,
Mhm,
the people who are closest to you in some ways can empathize with that,
mhm.
and it scares them
It does.
because and then they feel helpless
Yes,
because,
that
yeah,
part.
you're
Mhm,
going through, yeah, but they wanna fix it for you as well. They want you to be better, and it's like, "How do we get her there?" But
mhm,
everybody has to understand it's a
mhm,
process.
mhm.
Even you had do you feel like that was something you had to recognize, like, as much as I think I can get through this, I still gotta go through all of the steps that are necessary to get to that place of complete healing?
Yes, Imma back up a little bit too. My doctors at first were kinda slow coming, meaning when I first realized I had the tumor, my first doctor, which was my OBGYN, told me that it wasn't cancer without any test, without any biopsy, and he
Mm,
just figured that he could do a inpatient, removal of the lump, you know.
mm,
But I had to be my own advocate and said,
mhm,
no, I would feel better if we would go through the process and do a biopsy and have it tested.
yeah,
Fast forward, we did that. Then you got to fight the insurance because I had already had my mammogram in June. Now it's a
mhm,
second mammogram. So I had to go to special loops to get what they call a diagnostic mammogram. So, in that space of being a fixer, so to speak, I pressed for myself.
mhm,
Then, of course, they wanted to wait 3 weeks or so before I would meet with my surgeon. And of course, I made phone calls and phone calls, and then it ended up only being 3 days.
mhm,
In other words, you have to be your
mm,
advocate.
mhm.
It's not an emergency for nobody
But you,
but
mhm,
you, because now you know it's growing because it might not have been there in June, but
mhm,
now it's here in November. And being that it was November 25th that I was finally diagnosed, I wouldn't have met anybody until December 9th to get everything started
mhm,
if I had waited on the doctors. And then that would have pushed me in 2026 to even start anything.
mhm.
So, with that being said, be your own advocate. So,
Yeah,
yes. So, being a fixer, I had to put on my hats and I had
mhm,
to get out of my feelings and I had to make the phone calls that needed to be made.
mhm,
And in 2026, I wanted to get started. So, fast forward back to what you had asked. Then I heard I had 16 diagnoses of chemo. Four of them would have been every 2 weeks. So now we're really talking 20 weeks of chemo is what we're really talking. Actually, 24 weeks of chemo.
mm.
That is a long time.
That's a very long time, yeah,
That's
so
a
yeah.
long time.
Mhm,
So my first one was January 5th, and my last one was May 18th. So
mhm,
that's a long time. But
mhm.
I would count, and my husband would say, okay, one down, 15 more to go.
Yeah.
One down, 14 more to go.
Mhm,
And so, yeah, and then people would tell you their sides of chemo. And like Betty mentioned earlier, there is no one fix for everybody. It's not a one size fit all.
Mm-hmm.
I had to learn to listen to my doctors and my personal prognosis and not everybody else's prognosis
Mm-hmm.
because it will scare you.
Mhm. I would imagine so. I mean, because we know that nowadays medicine is a whole lot better. So people live with cancer. They don't necessarily always die with cancer. It was a point, back in the past where when you heard the big C word, it was over, lights out. But now people are surviving more. But I'm hearing you also say that because everybody's not as forward as you, Celicia. So they might take the first thing a doctor says and just sit on that, but
Yeah,
you're like, no, there's more I feel like I need to do. And you
yeah,
just didn't let somebody who, and a lot of people respect physicians and think, okay, they're the doctors, so this is what they
mhm,
say, fine. But when you get something like that, would you say to people that, you hadn't been diagnosed yet, but would you say to people still press for more
mhm,
treatment, or not treatment, you weren't getting treatment yet, but more, I guess, what's the word I'm looking for? More of a diagnosis, not just, oh, I think it's okay, I'll look at it later or whatever. Would you
mhm,
really tell people to press hard for things they don't feel comfortable about, even if
mhm,
they're talking to a physician?
mhm. Definitely, because again, most people would have been afraid that it might be cancer and they might have leaned more towards, in my case, my doctor said he didn't think it was anything. I think he called it
Mhm.
hair follicle or something,
Mm.
maybe a hair trapped in there or
Mhm.
whatever his
Mhm.
term was. I was kind of deaf to it
Mhm.
because again, cancer, unfortunately, it's a growing
Mhm.
disease.
Mhm.
It's very plentiful. If you go to the cancer center now, the line's out the door. That's not a
Mhm.
good thing, but
Mhm.
it's a real thing. And if I had listened to my doctor in that moment and mine did turn out to be cancer, no telling, I might not even be here to talk to you right now.
Mhm.
You
Mhm.
know, so press forward, embrace scared anyway. That's what I would say. Embrace
Yeah.
scared anyway. Because in
Mhm.
that moment that he was telling me that he didn't think it was anything and we could handle it in office, I was scared, but I was also scared not to.
Right. Yeah,
Um,
that's good that you gotta be scared enough not to do it,
yeah,
right? Yeah,
yeah,
yeah, yeah. Yeah, I get that point too. Yeah, because some people say, "Oh, I'm scared to do it," but what if you don't?
yeah,
That ought to
yeah.
frighten you even
Mhm.
more, because what could possibly happen? A good
But
point.
Betty, here's the thing though. When I called my doctor office back, needless to say, he's not my doctor anymore.
I bet.
When I called my doctor office back and I said, well, did you look at my chart? Did you realize it was cancerous? And his reply to me was, well, we don't always get them right.
Mm, wow, okay. And that may be true, but I think this warranted an apology. It also, I would hope, get him to think about, sometimes there's an arrogance that comes with practicing
Yeah,
medicine,
yeah,
and you
yeah,
think you can figure it out as a physician better than a blood test or some type of other diagnosis,
yeah,
or tool,
yeah.
diagnostic tool. So yeah, that I mean, he should be. I would be on alert, like, oh my gosh, I could have really messed that lady's life up had
Mhm,
I, and I mean, just for you to be gracious enough to call them back and say, hey, it really was a diagnosis,
mhm,
um, and to have that kind of a flippant response. Okay,
mhm.
well, good.
Well,
I'm
I
glad you moved on.
well, I said that too. All doctors aren't compassionate. I have not, even though that was November 25th, I've
Mhm.
yet to hear from that OBGYN to follow up to see how things are going. And it was
Wow.
no ugly words
Mhm, mhm.
we didn't transfer any ugly words between each other. I
Yeah.
did a I just called out of my convenient time and
Mhm.
just shared with them that what we thought might have not been anything, it did turn out to be cancerous.
Yeah.
But his only reply was, we don't always get it right. Um, I've not heard from him not one additional time since November 25th.
Wow.
Not
That's
one time. So
terrible.
I said that to say that they may be medically prepared or have the degrees, but not all of them have the care, compassion, love.
Mhm.
Some of them are just in it, I hate to say this, for the profession.
Yeah,
Um,
there's some people that just they don't teach them that in school, right? They teach them all of
yeah,
the skills and the
yeah,
knowledge they need in order to treat people, but they at the end of the day, you're not just a diagnosis, you're not just a a ball of symptoms, you're an actual human being. And
yeah,
so they need to think about how they convey that kind of information to people. And if somebody's scared or curious, then they need to have that same kind of outlook as you do so
yeah.
that they can meet you where you are and treat you the way you want to be treated. So I'm glad you moved on from them. So okay, so you hear the words, you get the diagnosis, you start going through the treatment, and you've completed it, but you're still in it.
Mm-hmm,
So since the topic and the theme of this podcast, this particular episode, is about resilience,
mm-hmm,
what is it that you've done and have you been intentional about doing something that keeps yourself encouraged through this whole process?
mm-hmm. I stay connected,
To
with my circle of believers, faith warriors. Um, I also love to read positive things.
Mhm,
You know, I continue to make sure I drink a lot of water. You may find that small, but it's not.
mhm,
Um, Through this process, even though I am a health guru, for those of you that know me, I love to work out and I've always drunk water, but I've never drank 60 plus ounces a day.
mhm,
So that helps flush your system.
mhm,
And I'm going to repeat that. Drink a lot of water. Get your rest. I'm also a person that go, 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 and I'm a do, 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 do.
yep.
I don't like to sleep. Sleep is not my best friend. I'm a doer. I'm a worker. I'm a hustler. I'm an over accomplisher, so to speak. But your rest is important. Your sanity is important. Your
Mhm,
peace is important. I don't measure in the minors anymore.
mhm,
The things that used to matter, they don't matter anymore. Um, you could block things out easier now because cancer rings a louder bell
mhm,
than
mhm,
nonsense. Um, I attempt to still lift my God, and
mhm,
I want to live his word. That's another thing that keeps me going
mhm,
because I am big on if you call me and you're going through something, but yet you are a faith warrior and we are prayer warriors together, I will ask you, so who is the God that you serve? You could have this big God when you are sharing the God, but when you have to live that God, it's not as
mhm,
easy. So
mhm,
that kept me going. Okay, Lord, you've brought me through not cancer before, but you've brought me through a lot. But you have given me, as Betty shared with you, I'm a Sunday school teacher. I can't teach what I don't live.
mhm,
So that carried me. I also strive not to look like what I'm going through. Um, I love fashion. So I've taken this opportunity to find some new looks. So I've
Uh-huh.
lost my hair through the process, and I've had long hair, like halfway down my back, natural hair. Not halfway, yeah, halfway down my back, natural hair.
Mhm,
So I've taken this opportunity to find some new looks,
mhm,
and I found some joy in that, for lack of better words.
mhm.
Again, it's mind over matter. I've had to do that a lot, mind over
Yeah,
matter.
yeah.
You get a lot of different kinds of pain. Mine were bone pains. I still deal with it. Neuropathy, I still deal with it. Headaches, I still deal with it. Blurred vision, I still deal with it. I'm cold 1 minute, hot 1 minute, cold
Mhm,
again, hot again. I still deal with it.
Mhm.
but it's mind over matter. This will not be always.
Mhm.
So I sometimes you have to encourage yourself.
Yeah, you do.
You have to
Yeah,
encourage.
I would think so what I'm hearing you say is, first of all, you reprioritize things in your life.
Mhm,
So the stuff that used to bug you before, it just is minimal now because
mhm,
there's a bigger purpose in your living, which is to
mhm,
get well and to
mhm,
get healed fully and
mhm,
completely. And then as you go through all of the physical symptoms that could really have you just splayed out, I can't
mhm,
deal with this, and just kind of
mhm,
curl up in a ball and just um not live life, you're
mhm,
still pushing yourself to do some of the things you enjoy doing. You got a good support system
mhm, I do.
and you find those things that give you joy, even if it's just reading a book or,
Mhm,
finding ways to encourage yourself, but you keep talking to yourself apparently.
mhm.
And you're telling yourself to just keep moving,
Yes.
keep going through. Yeah, because you went through that list of symptoms and yeah, you got them, but you're making it through it, right?
Mhm, mhm,
Some people, Celicia, I really like that you find ways to encourage yourself because some people they will allow, and I know we're talking about cancer, but we can make this even broader. There are a lot of people
mhm.
going through a lot of struggles in their lives. Some of not even physical, some of it's mental, some of it's bad relationships, some of it's financial troubles.
Yes,
It's
yes,
all
yes.
kinds of trials, right?
Mhm,
And but
mhm,
we don't know how to bounce back from that. We don't
mhm,
know how to get through it. So, based on your experience with what you're dealing with now, this particular segment of your life, what kind of advice would you give somebody who is in some major struggle, regardless of what kind of struggle it is, but they're in some major struggle? What advice would you give them in terms of being resilient through that journey?
mhm. Well, find some silent time and do some search within
Mm.
yourself.
Mhm.
You know, you know, if Stacy hear this, she'll say, you
This was for
know,
you, Stacy.
yes, 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 yes. Go to the throne and not to the phone always.
Uh-huh.
You know, basically, Betty, I would say give yourself grace. I think that's the biggest thing. We need to give ourselves grace and ask God to show you what it is that He wants you to get out of that situation, whatever
Mhm.
it may be. Say financial. Let's get away from cancer. Say financial. You're in a financial struggle. Did you overspend? Did you undermanage?
Mhm.
Did you give away more than you should? Just whatever the case may be. Or relationships. Were you who you needed to be in that relationship? It's not always the other person's fault,
Mhm.
you know. But of course, you may be saying that's not apples to apples or oranges to oranges, but no, it may not be. And no, I don't think I did anything to give myself cancer, but it landed on me. And so I would ask myself, well, Lord, this is not for me, it's for others. You know, I began to live out loud
Mm.
via social media with my diagnosis. And I've gotten many calls that they thought I shouldn't, or how bold was I, or maybe I should keep it a private. And then I had those that say, you're an inspiration. But that became my journal. I lived out loud prior to cancer,
Mhm. Right.
you
Mhm.
know, and people became inspired by me before cancer. So if God gave me this, I had to believe that He wanted me to be inspirational in spite of cancer. Because there are a lot of people that follow me that they've gone through it, are going through it, or will go through it.
Mhm.
So be yourself. Find your way of being yourself in your struggle. Because oftentimes we hide, we're embarrassed, we're lost within our struggle.
Yeah.
And we care what other people may say, be it what you're going through, what you may look like, what you're going through. But a lot of times, that's all you, because I do have a great village, and in spite of what I'm going through, people who I never thought would step up for me, they have.
Mhm.
Those that I thought or never even thought knew me, I've learned that they do. So, Betty, basically, give yourself grace, allow
Yeah.
other people to support you no matter what it is, even if you're going through a financial struggle or yourself or you are a single parent and you need assistance with getting the kids back and forth to school because you got to be to work on time. You would be amazed if you were to reach out to your
Mm.
church family, so to speak, or
Mhm.
maybe a neighbor or whatever. There are people that want to help you and not harm you. So give yourself grace, give your village credit, lift and dive into your faith, self encourage, motivate. Find some music or something
Mhm.
that will speak the words into if you can't speak it yourself. And find yourself a trusted praying circle.
Oh, that's right.
You know,
Mhm.
every prayer is not for you. Okay, and everybody's voice is not for you. But you would know when it's there.
Yeah, I think that, just to be built up spiritually when you're going through a time where you could really be down
Mhm.
emotionally and mentally and spiritually, to have just to know that there are people who are calling your name, who are lifting you up, who are sending positive thoughts,
Mm,
who are sending prayers, all of those things should make a person feel like they're not going through something like this alone. Sometimes, Celicia, it seems to me that people might look at cancer like there's some kind of stigma that's
mm,
become attached to it, and folks are almost embarrassed to tell people that they're going through, and to
yeah,
me that's so huge. I don't know, it just feels like that's when you ought to be telling a lot of people, because that's a heavy lift to do by
yes,
yourself, and
yes.
people would have lots of sympathy and empathy for you and be willing to help you through if it's no more than just a pat on the back, a hug, or a kind word. Do you
Mm.
agree?
I agree. I have three examples. I have one individual who she went through cancer and she didn't share with any of her loved ones except for her daughter. And in hindsight, she wished she had not done that to her daughter because her daughter lost a big portion of her life
Hmm.
trying to be her only support.
Ah,
And she wished she had shared.
good point. Yep.
Then I have another individual who had gone through, and it wasn't necessarily cancer, but she was silent within hers. And she said that she felt so alone.
Mhm.
And she wished that she had shared it because
Yeah.
I didn't know either, but she wished she had shared it because she was so alone and she became depressed
Ah, yep.
in the process.
Mhm.
And then I have a third individual who called to chastise me because I was so out loud with mine, and she thought that I was doing myself more harm than I was
Mm,
doing myself help.
mm.
And then as we continued to chat, and she realized of the village that surrounded me, that she then began to speak out loud and share with others. And she realized that people couldn't help her if they didn't know what she was going through.
Right, yeah.
So those are just three different examples
Mhm.
that if you keep your diagnosis a secret or whatever you may be going through, not saying share it with the whole world, it just
Right.
depends on what you're going through.
Right.
But cancer is something that God allowed me to have.
Mhm.
And I know I can't do it alone. And I know my husband would need help. And I just give God thanks that He gave me the boldness, He gave me the confidence, He gave me the trust, the faith, the leadership, the guidance
Mhm.
to share it with others.
Yeah. Yep.
Now, the stigma probably comes from how you may look going through the process, how you may feel going through the process. Because I'm exhausted. Just sitting here talking to you right now, I'm exhausted.
Mhm,
I'm
mhm.
extremely exhausted.
Yeah.
But I had a big day yesterday and I had a big day before. Going into
Mhm.
it, I knew I would be
Mhm.
exhausted eventually,
Mhm.
but I think we need to be more open. Again, it's with each individual. I'm not condemning anybody who they choose not to,
Right, right. Yeah.
you know. But if we can have more of us, it's more of an awareness. I like to let people know um how they could live a prosperous life, so to speak, or a joyful life, so to speak,
Mhm. Mhm.
in spite of. It's
Yeah.
not a death sentence by
Mhm.
all means. If nothing else, let people know it's not a death sentence. And the other stigma, I guess, so to speak, I have a handful of people that want to live this space holistically with no medication.
Mm.
And some people will condemn people such as myself
Ah.
for receiving the treatment that I receive. But I don't find it any different than you taking a Tylenol pill for a headache, or you have high blood pressure and the doctor give you high blood pressure medicine.
Mhm.
Back to these doctors, they aren't trained to be compassionate. We got, you know, people that lay on your couch and close your eyes and they talk to you psychologically or no,
Mhm.
but they're trained to give you the right medicine in most cases. Do your
Yeah.
research, just
Yeah.
your own research.
Yeah.
So
Or it
we
could be a
need,
combination of the two, right? I mean, it doesn't have to be all or nothing, one side or the other, because we could all benefit from doing things a little bit differently and more naturally, and taking care of ourselves regardless, whether you have cancer or not. But one side or the other doesn't have it's not a zero sum deal. You can choose both of them, I would imagine. Have you learned a lot about just general care, wellness and healthcare, care of your health, I should say,
I
going through this
have,
process? Mhm.
I
Yeah.
have. Just to back up one statement, going through this process, I've learned of so many people that I know that they went through this process and I had no idea that they
Mhm.
had breast cancer. But now that they know that I got breast cancer, girl, I did too back in so and so year.
Wow.
But the health journey, there are a lot of things that I learned that I should not eat while I was going through this process because my body was open to bacteria or,
Mm.
low immune.
Mhm.
Um, just recently, Friday, I had myself some raw oysters. I didn't have that since December. So
Oh, boy.
you can't eat anything raw.
Mhm.
I no salads from restaurants
Mhm.
because they aren't washing the lettuce
Mm.
like you probably would at home. So I couldn't have sushi, caffeine.
Oh, man.
Yeah. Mostly, yeah. So things like that. And I also learned that oh Lord, what's the thing we talked about, Betty? You get from bananas and
Oh, potassium.
my potassium. I
Mhm.
didn't know how important potassium
I
was.
know how. Mhm.
Lord, they told me my potassium was low, and if I didn't work on it, that they would have to give me an additional 4 hours of infusion. I was already in there 5 hours one day and 2 hours another day, and they
Yeah.
were talking about an additional 4 hours just to give me potassium. So I came home and I ate bananas and I ate watermelon and I ate yogurt.
Try to
Oh
get it all in at once, huh?
so, yes,
Yeah.
when I went back to the doctor, they told me my potassium was on point.
I
So
bet it was.
yes, yes, yes. So yes, I
Yeah,
learned a
no.
lot, about
Yeah.
my body and your weight.
Mm.
You lose your taste through the process too.
Mm.
So I had no taste. So a lot of times I was eating just because I knew I needed to eat.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
couldn't taste
That's
it.
not enjoyable.
It's not enjoyable at all. But
Yeah.
mind over matter. Mind over matter.
Mhm.
So,
So do you think you have to be mentally strong to go through something like this?
yes, yes. Betty, yes.
Is that
You
is
do.
that what's exhausting about it? Just a constant battle with the mental and the physical, kinda just trudging through this?
For a lot of people, I think it is. But Betty, again, we talk about how we are all different kinds of individuals and we are all built differently.
Mhm.
Um, I think because I am already a mind over matter, mentally strong type individual, and all that's based on your upbringing, your professionalism, your profession, I'm sorry,
Mhm.
your spiritual background. Um, so I'll use another example of a young lady. She watched me as I would go into the cancer centers. And I would dress up like I'm going to work. I'm cute, you know. And she would ask me, she said, "Well, how do you do it?" And I said, I get up, I pray every morning, and coming into this center, which is a mental, knowing I need to go in, knowing I'm seeing those long lines, knowing I'm one of these cancer patients, it is a mental something, but you have to build yourself up. I
Mhm.
would find myself, Betty, um, encouraging myself on my Mondays. Those were my treatment days. So Sunday night I would go to bed and say, okay, you got to sit there for 4 or 5 hours, and you're getting this infused into your body, and you know how you're going to feel afterwards,
Mhm.
3, 4, 5 days afterwards, you're going to be in the bed 2 or 3 of those days. You do have to build yourself up mentally because you're missing
Yes.
so much. You're not doing what you would normally do on a regular day if you're a 9 to 5 worker, or you typically go to church on a regular basis. I think, Betty, there was like 4 months I didn't go to church for a while.
Mhm. Mhm.
So I had to
Well, you
become
didn't need to be around a lot of people either, because y'all's
correct.
immune systems are compromised, and
Mhm,
people
mhm,
like to hug and touch on you, and folks
mhm.
carry diseases. I'm sorry.
But that
You
works
know?
against your mental. To your point, though, that works against your mental.
Yeah.
You want to be there, but you can't be there.
Mhm. Yeah.
You want to eat, but you can't eat this. You want to drink, but you can't drink this. You want to go this place, but you can't go this place. So, yeah, to answer your question, you need to be mentally strong
Is it
and just find that.
isolating?
It is very isolating. There were moments my husband would just take me out to ride the stretch of Clemson Road just to
Yeah.
get that moment.
Yeah.
Or I would do an individual delivery just to get outside of these four walls.
Mhm.
Or people will come visit and sit on my front porch when the weather was nice.
Mhm.
You know, yeah, it's very isolating to answer
Yeah,
your question,
yeah.
Betty. It's very isolating. But
So, as we start wrapping up, I do wanna ask this question, though, because this is one that I just find I stay curious about this part. As you go through all of this kinda stuff, what have you learned about you through all of this?
whew, that's a tricky question. You trying to trick me.
You said be introspective, so I imagine you have lots of time to think
Yeah.
on a lot of stuff, while
Mhm.
you're going through it. Has anything just kind of evolved in all of this about what you've learned about yourself?
One thing I mentioned earlier, what mattered before does not matter. Not to minor in the majors.
Mhm.
And I'm sorry, not to
Major
major in the
learners?
minors, not
Mhm.
to major in the minors.
Mhm.
Prioritize that's important.
Mhm.
Life is short.
Hmm.
Live every day to the fullest
Yes.
without regret. I've learned to say no
Mm.
and not try to be everybody else's hero.
Mhm.
I learned that I am not my hair.
How about that?
Now, this is coming from somebody that I go to the beauty salon once a week, or every time you
Mhm.
see me, my hair is done.
Mhm.
Um, I go to the nail salon every 2 weeks. I haven't been able to do that. That's one thing the doctor said that I could not do, because
Mhm.
again, they're digging in your nails, and bacteria and all of the above, and
Mhm.
fumes and all of the above. I've learned that I am more resilient than I would have given myself credit for
Mhm.
if I had not gone through this.
Alright.
I've learned that I am stronger because I watched my brother and a few other loved ones go through this cancer battle.
Mhm. Mhm.
Some survived and some didn't.
Mhm.
So I've learned that everybody's story is not the same. I've learned that cancer is not to be afraid of. Most people are afraid of it when they hear it. So through
Mhm.
my process, I've decided that I am going to be a warrior. And there are treatments. I've learned that people want to help you, and you are not always the helper. For lack of better words, it's okay to be the helpee.
I know that's right.
And in my
Yeah.
case, that was hard. I
Mhm.
had to learn to let people help me. People would call and they would say, "What could I do for you?" And I would say, "Nothing, nothing,
Yeah.
nothing." And then I had to learn that no, there is something, something, something.
And there were things you needed, right?
There were things I needed,
Mhm.
you
Yeah, so
know,
accept it.
it's up to, and some things, even if it's just to come help me clean my house,
Mhm.
wash my dishes, cook a meal for my family,
Mhm.
you know, just financial, it's a financial strain to go through what I'm going through as
Oh,
well,
yeah. Oh, yeah.
because I'm self-employed. So naturally, I can't make the money I normally would make. So
Mhm.
my household funds went down.
Mhm.
So I would tell people sometimes I just need a donation. If you can find it within yourself to give me a donation, I just need a donation.
Mhm.
That was hard for me.
Now I know. Yeah. Yeah,
That was
yeah.
hard for me,
Mhm.
because some people think they are begging. And I had to realize they asked, "How can I help you?" So I had to
Mhm.
be open with, "How could you help me?"
Yeah,
You
yeah.
know? So yeah, Betty, it's yeah.
You
So
know, you
it's a
said
lot of
something that Sep said last week, last episode too, was she was strong. She learned that she was stronger than she thought. And that
Mhm,
sounds like what you're saying too. You're
mhm,
able to make it through this. Until you had to face something like this, you
mhm,
didn't know what you could do. And you're doing
mhm,
things that you wouldn't ordinarily have done, but you
mhm,
got to survive through this whole
mhm,
ordeal.
mhm.
So, yeah, kudos to you for that. So we're gonna stay prayerful that July 1, when you have that surgery, that all will go well. Good news is you said the tumor has shrunk a
Yeah,
lot
to the point
since
where we can't find it. We have to struggle to find it. Yes.
good. So that chemo is
Mhm.
definitely it's wearing you out, but it's working.
It's
It's doing
working.
what
It's
it's
working.
supposed to
It's
do.
working. It's
All
working.
right. Well, cool. They'll find it, get rid of it, and that you will have no other issues afterwards. Because I know sometimes there's some residual effects
Mhm,
afterwards. People have lymphedema or
mhm.
all kinds of other issues. But yours sounds like a really good prognosis. Everything's working according to plan. You just got to continue down the journey.
Yes.
Thank you so much for all of the input, the insight, the encouragement, the lessons learned that I hope people will take away from this as they, review this or take a look at this particular episode. And so we encourage everybody, give some words of encouragement to Celicia in the comment section. Ask any questions you'd like. Share your own stories. We invite you to be a part of the conversation. And we also invite you back next week for episode number 38 of the Sharper Edge podcast. Until then, we wish you a great week. Take
Yeah.
care.
Thank you.